Well, a question. When you say I, where is that located? Behind the eyes, in the chest, in the brain? When you point here or here, are you any nearer to the truth of yourself? Now where am I? Am I in the head, in the heart, in the fingertip that points? No. No, I am not in the physical. No surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. This is not poetry, it is the fact of spiritual identity. Your spiritual you isn't confined to the material body. You can't leave it because you aren't in it, and you never have been in it. And because you are not in it, you do not return to I am. You cannot return to what you have never left. Presence is not over there, at the end of a road you must walk, or behind a mountain you must climb. Presence is not on a clock. Presence is. It is closer than breath, nearer than thought, prior to the arising of any image you have called me. We do not travel to the kingdom. We do not acquire God as if God were a possession. We awaken momentarily simply to what is already present, already being, already I am. Now someone says, you are speaking of 1 minute. And I am 60 seconds, but do not mistake this for a trick of time. Do not imagine that I have hidden a technique in the number. 60 seconds is not magic, it is mercy. It is a brief covenant to stop manufacturing a person. For 1 minute you will not add to the pile of names and roles and fears and hopes you have been kneading into a mask and calling I. For 1 minute you will refuse to decorate the mask. You will not polish it, you will not improve it. You will set it down quietly, and you will notice that you remain unmasked, unagitated, unthreatened. I am. The mind noise that troubles you is not an enemy to fight. Do not make warfare within your own house. Do not arm yourself against thoughts, for in that very arming you have named yourself the combatant, and the combatant must have an opponent, and the battle must continue. No. The noise is a false claimant to identity. It is a voice that says, I am the thinker, I am the worrier, I am the doer, I am responsible to run this universe called my life. It is a claimant without authority. When you believe it, you lend it your name. You give it the deed to your attention. You allow it to sign documents in your place. But when you withdraw the false authorization, the noise has no office to occupy. It fades for lack of your consent. So I offer this paradox as a key. You cannot reach presence because presence is what is reading these words, hearing this voice, breathing this breath. The reacher is the mask. The searcher is the story. The I behind the story is not the traveler. It is the home. And therefore the 1 minute call is not an exertion. It is a cessation. Stop trying to be the manufactured person, and presence stands revealed as the only I there is. Now I must say a word of promise, not to entice you, but to orient you. In 1 minute, the quiet you desire is not produced. It is uncovered. Why can it be so quick? Because God is not slow, because spirit does not have to put itself together in order to be itself. Because the sun does not become light by degrees. It is light. The moment the cloud of personal self-occupation passes, even briefly, the light is evident. If clouds return, do not be dismayed. The sun did not move. I am did not depart. The sense of person returned to claim authorship again, and with it came the noise. That is all. And here we approach the governing premise that will guide everything that follows. If identity is the issue, then the way cannot be merely a technique. A technique treats symptoms. Identity resets the cause. If you tinker with breath, with posture, with visualizations, as if they could purchase God, you have placed another God before the one. Thou shalt have no other gods. No procedure, no mantra, no personal will can stand in the sanctuary of I am. There is room for only one presence. So our minute is not a human method deployed to get an outcome. It is the willingness to let the outcome-bent person fall silent so that God alone is acknowledged as the actor. I speak gently but seriously. Do not tamper with cosmic law. You cannot use God. God uses you. You cannot manipulate presence for safety, prosperity, or acclaim without drawing the blade back upon the hand that wields it. But you can surrender. You can whisper within, even now, Father, thou art the life of me. Live thy life. Fulfill thyself in me. I am thy instrument. Thou art the actor. And in that humility, the claimant retires. The theater is cleared, and the stage is set for the simple wordless fact, I am. So let it be plain, presence is not achieved. It is recognized when the false sense of person is dropped. Our 1 minute will be a lived demonstration of this truth. We will not struggle with thought. We will not wrestle with feeling. We will not travel to a secret chamber somewhere behind the ribs. We will be still and know. We will stand absent from the body in our understanding, present with the Lord in our awareness, and we will discover, without fanfare, without strain, that thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And from that sufficiency the noise finds no purchaser, the person finds no stage, and identity rests in God alone. Let us look plainly and without fear at the person we are asked to set down. What is it? It is a bundle of names and roles, of anniversaries and wounds, of victories remembered and defeats rehearsed. It is a scrapbook of photographs and captions that all claim I. It is the parent and the child, the manager and the subordinate, the citizen, the immigrant, the success, the failure, the healthy one, the sick one, the many masks that rise up and cry, me, me, me. It is also the running ledger of grievances, the list of who owes me and to whom I am indebted. It is ambition in costume, fear in armor, and the vigilant guard at the gate of reputation asking, how am I seen? All of this, clamoring, urgent, as if without it there would be no one to be. Now listen closely and let the negations clear the air. I am not my mood. No, I am not my body's report, not a bit. I am not yesterday's praise, nor am I today's blame. I am not my reputation in town, nor my record in a file, nor the number on a scale, nor the date on a calendar. I am not an argument I won or lost. I am not the sum of mistakes forgiven, nor the tally of virtues displayed. I am not the anxious narrative that needs a future to secure itself, and I am not the sorrow that needs a past to justify itself. I am not the story, absent from the body, present with the Lord. This is identity, and no story contains it. Why then the noise? Why does thought grow so loud that it drowns the heart? Because a false employer has hired it to do impossible work. Thought was given to you as a servant for function. Add and subtract, choose a route, prepare a meal, write a letter. It was never commissioned to supply being. When you ask thought to manufacture a self, to keep alive a character called me by constant rehearsal, it labors, it strains, it overheats, it clatters like a machine driven past its purpose. You can hear the rattle. You call it mind noise. I call it identity noise. It is the sound of a tool trying to play God. There is a sacred difference. Hear it and be free. Functional thinking is ordinary, impersonal service. It looks at the clock and catches the train. It notes the ingredients and cooks the meal. It pays the invoice and enters the sum. Identity thinking is a fever. It is the ceaseless inward monologue that asks, what do they think of me? Am I safe? How can I secure tomorrow? How can I prove I am enough? It edits the past and auditions for the future. It tries to negotiate with the universe, to bargain for a better part. It is bondage because it requires round-the-clock employment. It does not sleep. It must keep the mask in place, and so it must keep talking. The law stands. Thou shalt have no other gods. Do not enthrone thought as God. Do not ask memory to save you or imagination to crown you. When you deify a creature of mind, you suffer the penalty of violation the way you suffer if you defy mathematics. 2 times 2 is 4. Insist that it be 5 for your convenience, and you do not punish mathematics. You suffer the collapse of a bridge built on error. In the same way, ask thought to be your being, and you will bear the weight of a life built on confusion. Anxiety is not a moral failure. It is the symptom that arises when the false builder is put in charge of the house. Someone asks, "Then shall I not think?" Of course you shall, but you will not think to become. You will not think to be safe. You will not think to prove existence or to grasp holiness. Planning is normal. Self-making is bondage. Use the mind as you would use your hand, naturally, gently, without superstition, and when wisdom beyond calculation is needed, do not squeeze the mind for it. Be still. Let God be the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. In my conscious oneness with God, I find that what needs to be known presents itself in its own way, in its own hour, without strain and without argument. Now let us look again at the masks. The proud mask wants applause. The wounded mask wants compensation. The competent mask wants to keep a flawless report. The spiritual mask, beware this one, wants to be known as advanced, as peaceful, as awakened. Each mask says, I, and each asks thought to keep it from slipping. Which of these are you? None of them, not a bit. They are garments that have been worn to play in the marketplace. They may be clean, they may be stained. They are not your being. Your being is I am, before any winning, before any losing, before any diagnosis, before any improvement. When the garment is taken to the cleaners, you do not mistake the hanger for the life that animates it. The quick quiet does not come by lashing the mind, by commanding it to be still in the name of a frightened self. The quick quiet comes when the claimant to authorship steps down. You do not have to evict thoughts. You simply refuse to authorize the masquerade. Withdraw the credential you have loaned to a bundle of patterns, and the bundle has no office to occupy. You know this in your own experience. The moment you stop defending a position, the argument dissolves into air. So here, the moment you stop defending an image called me, a great lightness enters. There is less to protect. There is nothing to promote. There is only I am. Therefore, the reset is clean and simple. If the person is a mental construction, then the minute is merely the refusal to build another floor on that scaffolding. You set down the hammer and the nails. You do not renovate the mask. You do not decorate it for company. You do not rehearse its lines for an imagined stage. You sit comfortably without ceremony, and you let the mind be a quiet workshop with no project underway. For 60 seconds, you do not hire thought to supply being. You let being announce itself without your help. You let presence be present. As you do, the ethical law guards the door. There can be no selfish purpose in this. We are not dropping the person to acquire advantage, to charm events, to manipulate outcomes. We are obeying the first commandment because it is the nature of reality. One God, one self, one life. And in that obedience, everything relaxes. The breath loses its burden. The heart ceases to argue. The mind becomes a servant again, waiting to be rightly employed. Absent from the body in understanding, present with the Lord in awareness, you may even smile at the parade of masks as they pass by without recruitment. Let this be very practical. When noise arises, do not grapple with it. Ask, which mask is asking to be upheld right now? See it, nod to it, then say within, no, not I. Father, thou art the life of me. Live thy life, fulfill thyself in me, and be still for 1 minute. In that minute, you will not construct a self. You will not sell a self. You will not defend a self. You will discover that being does not need your constant thinking to be. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. In that sufficiency, the bundle falls to the floor, and the simple, non-local fact remains, shining without help. I am. Well then, if we have set down the masks, let us look squarely at the one who is aware of their setting down. Where is this one? When you listen now, is the hearing in the ear? The ear is an instrument. It receives and transmits, but the hearer is not an organ. When you see the shape of the room, is the seeing in the eye? The eye is a lens. It permits light to register, but the seer is not a lens. When you say I, what do you point to? The chest, the head, the space behind the eyes. Now, where am I? Am I here in the ribcage? Am I here in the skull? No, I am not in the physical. No surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body. The body is known. The knower is not bodily. The instrument may be examined, adjusted, even replaced. The awareness which knows instrument and adjustment cannot be placed on a tray or weighed on a scale. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. Do not make this a magic trick. Do not imagine an escape act. It is not a departure from a room. It is a shift of emphasis within consciousness. Absent not by distance but by non-identification. Present not by travel but by recognition. While you sit in the same chair, with the same breath moving, with the same traffic murmuring outside, let attention loosen its clenched fist around the body as location and relax into the Lord as presence. Here, now. Without theatrics, without a rapture to chase or a sensation to secure. We are not engaging an occult projection. I hope you will never try to do it. We are engaging a sober, holy fact. Identity is spiritual, not anatomical. Consider a sensation in the hand. Warmth, tingling, a pulse. It is noticed, it registers, but does it tell you where you are, or does it simply report weather within the field of awareness? There is a breeze of pleasure, a gust of pain, a stillness of neutrality. Weather changes, the sky remains. You are not the ache, you are the awareness to whom the ache appears and from whom it fades. The body can signal, heal, tire, strengthen, but you are not contained in the signal any more than the ocean is contained in a single wave. Sensations arise as content. They do not confer location upon the knower of content. Let us inquire and be done with this confusion. Right now, silently, ask, where is I? In the foot that tingles? In the thought that comments, my foot tingles? In the chest that lifts and falls? In the memory that says, yesterday I felt the same? When you notice the foot, who is noticing? When you notice the thought about the foot, who is noticing that thought? When you notice the lift of breath, who is witnessing its rise and fall? Each object of attention is known. The knower is not an object. Am I behind the eyes? If I am behind the eyes, who is aware of that image of being behind the eyes? No. The eye that knows cannot be placed in the picture it is viewing. The eye is awareness itself. Do not be disturbed if this feels paradoxical. Paradox is the doorway through which the personal mind cannot pass. It wants coordinates, it wants a dot on the map. But the map is in you. You are not in the map. The room is in your awareness. You are not in the room. And yet the body remains cared for, the room remains respected, duties are fulfilled. Hands wash the dishes, feet walk the road. This is not neglect. It is proper order. You do not abandon the vehicle. You cease to worship it as a shrine. You do not reject sensation. You reassign it to its rightful place as report, not as residence. As this recognition ripens, a beautiful, quiet sanity flowers. Without effort, without vows, the attention rests, not on the figure in the mirror, not on the biography in the drawer, but on the fact of awareness as the presence of God. I and the Father are one, not two pinpoints trying to meet, but one presence knowing itself. Absent from the body and understanding, present with the Lord in awareness. The chair becomes a chair again, not a throne of identity. The face becomes a face again, not a mask to defend. The heartbeat becomes a rhythm again, not a judge with a gavel. The senses report, they do not rule. Do you see the release that comes? If I am not in the body, I cannot be confined by its calendar, its rumor, its costume. I can love it, tend it, and yet not fear as if its changes were changes in being. And because I do not try to wrest from the body a location for myself, the body finds ease. It is no longer asked to bear the impossible weight of proving a self. In that ease, even the mind's service becomes natural again. It adds and subtracts, and then it rests. It plans a route, and then it is quiet. And in the quiet, I do not try to use God. God uses me. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. This is why the silence we have spoken of is not an achievement, but a homecoming to what is always present. When the I is recognized as awareness and not as the tight knot of sensation and story, silence is no longer a project. It is the natural non-striving of being what you are. In that non-striving, receptivity is born, desireless, wordless, open. I wait in a state of receptivity, not to get, not to demonstrate, only to acknowledge, Thou art the life of me. Live thy life. Fulfill thyself in me. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. And here is the quiet authority of cosmic law protecting this recognition. Thou shalt have no other gods. Do not enthrone a pulse and call it I. Do not enthrone a fear and call it I. Do not enthrone a hope and call it I. Let all gods fall but the one. When the false gods are lowered, you do not lose your world. You recover it as holy. The neighbor is no longer an actor in your drama. The neighbor is light, one with the light that you are. The body before you and the body you steward are seen as temples of a presence that cannot be circumscribed. So we are not escaping the body, not leaving the room. We are ceasing to believe that the body contains the I. In that cessation, the room brightens without a bulb. The breath unburdens without an exercise. The minute of quiet ceases to be a technique and becomes a doorway left open for God alone. And standing there, absent from the body in belief, present with the Lord in realization, we find what cannot be added to and cannot be taken from. I am. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And in that sufficiency, the awareness that is I abides, effortless, receptive, free. Before we take the next step, we must pass the ethical gate. Not by fear, not by penance, but by understanding. There is a law that governs the invisible as surely as mathematics governs the bridge and traffic law governs the street. Thou shalt have no other gods. Do not hear this as condemnation. Hear it as the description of how reality functions. You violate 2 times 2 is 4, and you have not angered arithmetic. You have collapsed your structure. You run a red light, and the principle of order does not condemn you. Your violation invites collision. So with the soul, enthrone a second power beside God. Call it fear, or money, or approval, or pain, or the outcome you are trying to force. And you have introduced a split in what is indivisible. And a split will always ache because being is one. What are these other gods in our day? They are not carved idols, they are inner enthronements. Fear when I treat it as an oracle to obey. Money when I believe it can add a cubit to my stature. Approval when I hand strangers the keys to my peace and call their praise salvation. Pain when I believe it can separate me from the life of God. Outcomes when I make a private agenda the measure of truth. Even time can be a god when I bow before the calendar as if it were causative. And yes, religion can be made a god when I try to purchase God's favor with rituals. Anything treated as power is a second deity, and the law is simple. There is no second. One God, one life, one I. Now look gently with me and see how mind noise itself becomes worship. Rehearsing dangers. Do you see how that is a prayer to fear? It is a liturgy, a recitation that says to the universe, "This is power, attend." Bargaining with life. If I think hard enough, I can make this person behave. I can make this event conform. Is that not a little altar erected to personal will, attempting to control the body or the day with grim inner speech? Is that not the making of a graven image called me, the doer, the fixer, the savior? And then we wonder why the minute feels loud. We are chanting to the wrong God. Do not be harsh with yourself. This is correction, not condemnation. The law is impersonal. It cuts both ways. Use it wrongly, and it will cut the hand that grasps. Align with it, and it will cleave a straight path, where there seemed to be no way. When we employ this minute as a tactic, I will do my 60 seconds so that I can secure a deal, heal a symptom, get an apology, win a race. We have already broken the law we claim to honor. We have set an outcome on the altar and asked God to serve it. Don't ever tamper with a cosmic law. There can be no selfish purpose in it. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Sow personal manipulation in the name of spirit, and you reap restlessness, because you have knotted the mind to an idol and called it prayer. I say this to keep you safe. I hope you will never try to use God. Let God use you. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. The minute of reset is not occult leverage. It is obedience. It is returning power to God alone. It is the surrender of tactics, not the refining of tactics. When you really let the false gods fall, a holy relief enters at once. The shoulders lower. The breath unburdens. Why? Because the heavy lifting, the impossible work of running a universe from a private mind is laid down. I and the Father are one. I do not carry the law carries me. Let us make this very plain with examples the heart understands. If I sit down to be still in order to produce a feeling, I have enthroned feeling. If I close my eyes to extract a sign, I have enthroned signs. If I quiet my thoughts so that a particular person will call or a specific number will appear in the account, I have enthroned persons and numbers. And if I sit to rid myself of fear because I believe fear is a power that can destroy me, I have enthroned fear. In every case, the mind noise is not relieved because it has been promoted to priest. No. The reset works cleanly only when it is surrender, not a tactic to control outcomes. What then does obedience sound like within? It sounds like this. Father, thou alone art power. There is no other. Not fear, not money, not approval, not pain, not time, not outcome. Live thy life. Fulfill thyself in me. I seek not to get, not to demonstrate, not to bend events, but to acknowledge what is already true. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. There is no bargaining in that. There is only recognition. There is the first commandment lived, not recited. And notice the fruit of that recognition. Instantly the neighbor is safe from our interference. We do not use inner work to steer another's path, to correct another's choices, to win an advantage. Love thy neighbor as thyself flows naturally from having no other gods. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. The same life that fulfills itself as me fulfills itself as the one across the table, the one across the ocean. In obedience to one God, the law of love becomes the atmosphere of our minute. We are not competing for a scarce blessing. We are bathing in the one that already is. So before we take the seat, make this inward clearing. Let the altars come down. Let the props be removed from the stage. Do not try to silence thought in order to get a prize. Allow the false claimant to authorship to retire because it has no authority. Then the device of time, 60 seconds, becomes a clean cup, not a magic chalice. We are not pouring will into it. We are offering it empty to God. Desireless, wordless, open. In such obedience, the minute is safe, the practice is pure, the law is honored, and the soul is at rest. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And with that motive purified, we are ready to enter the 1-minute prayer, not to make anything happen, but to acknowledge what already is. I am. Now we make it very plain, very human, very kind. This is not a ritual. This is a seat of receptivity, comfort without ceremony, stillness without strain. It is as natural as moving a chair closer to the window so that the light falls on your page. You are not conjuring power. You are ceasing to obstruct it. You are not earning presence. You are no longer impersonating the one who must. Let the body be arranged in such a way that it has nothing to say for 60 seconds, and then it will not call you back with little protests. Choose a chair of comfortable height, low enough that your feet rest flat on the floor without effort. Do not cross the legs. Let both feet be easy, hip width, heels grounded without tension. Sit far enough back that the pelvis is supported, and let the spine be upright but not stiff, as if a string is gently lifting the crown and then letting it go. The head balances over the shoulders, not thrust forward, not held like a statue. Let the jaw soften, lips lightly together or slightly parted, shoulders easy, chest unpropped, no soldiering, hands loose. Rest them in the lap or on the thighs, palms down or up, but never gripping, never hooked on the chair's arms in a way that asks the shoulders to hold. The body is to feel like a well-watered plant, alive, supported, not braced. Close the eyes. There is no occult reason for this, no magnetism, no mystery, only one of physical comfort and non-distraction. With eyes open, the world asks to be named. With eyes closed, the naming quiets. Do not press the lids. Let them rest. If it feels better to lower the gaze to a soft blur instead of fully closing, do that. There is no holiness in a position. There is only kindness in a posture that does not intrude. Clothing loose enough that nothing pinches. If a belt is tight, loosen it. If a collar scratches, open it. These are not rites. They are common sense, the same wisdom that takes a pebble out of the shoe before beginning to walk. Now, the breath. Never force it, never count it, never shepherd it like a nervous shepherd with a single roaming sheep. The breath has carried you every hour since you were an infant. It will manage another minute without your instruction. Let it come as it comes, go as it goes. If a sigh comes, let it. If a yawn comes, let it. You are not arranging breath to achieve God. You are dropping the need to arrange anything. Strain is still the person trying to succeed. No, no, we are not succeeding. We are yielding. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. As for thought, do not wrestle. Do not put on gloves. Do not shush. Do not swat. A train passes. You do not chase it down the track to argue its destination. A thought passes, let it pass. You will discover that it is not noise that binds you. It is the one trying to be the manager of noise. See that manager, smile, and be done with it. If you find yourself listening to a sentence in the head, notice it as you would notice the hum of a refrigerator. There and already not yours. You are not the commentator. You are the awareness to whom commentary appears and in whom it dissolves. I am not in the physical, absent from the body, present with the Lord. I wait in a state of receptivity. If there is an itch, scratch it quietly and return. If the leg asks to be shifted, shift it. Do not make an altar of endurance. Pain is not a sacrament. Discomfort is not a currency for blessing. The purpose is not mortification but removal of distraction. Be sensible, be gentle. We are preparing a seat, not for a guest who must be impressed by our posture, but for the one who is already seated as our own being. If a noise comes from the street, include it in the wideness. If a memory taps at the door, let it know that the office is closed for 1 minute. You are not rude, you are devoted. Notice what begins to occur when comfort is established and strain is absent. The body recedes the way wallpaper recedes when you read a page you love. The chair is present and yet you forget it. The breath is present and yet you are not supervising its rhythm. Sensations may whisper, but they no longer hold your badge. The field of attention widens and softens. Here the aim is fulfilled, to become so gently unaware of the body that attention rests as presence, not a blank, not a trance. A simple, wakeful non-locality where the ordinary markers are in their places, and yet the eye ceases to look for a home address in muscle or memory. Remember, there is no magic in the furniture. You can sit at the kitchen table, in the living room, on a park bench, in a parked car before a meeting. You can stand in a line and close your eyes for half a breath. If that is what is given, that is holy time. The posture is convenience, not covenant. It is a kindness to the senses, so that the soul may be unencumbered. Do not postpone this for a perfect room or an imported cushion. Do not crown the apparatus as a God. One God, one life, one I. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. In that oneness, place, and posture are servants, not masters. So we have cleared the altar of extras. We have refused strain. We have let comfort do its quiet work. Now the heart knows its password and the seat knows its purpose. Father, thou alone art power, there is no other. Live thy life. Fulfill thyself in me. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. With the body quieted and the motive pure, we will enter together the 60-second reset. Not to make anything happen, not to wrestle, not to decorate a person, but to acknowledge what already, always is. I am. Now, with the chair no longer calling attention to itself, and the heart free of bargaining, we take the minute. Not to become spiritual, not to get holy, to consent to be what already is. I and the Father are one. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. Presence does not arrive. Presence is recognized when the false claimant retires. This is our consent. For the first 15 seconds, do one simple radical thing. Inwardly whisper without words the opening syllable of identity. I. Do not finish the sentence. Refuse adjectives. Refuse titles. Refuse problems. Not I am late. Not I am anxious. Not I am this role, this age, this history. No, no. The instant an adjective appears, let it drop like a coat on a warm day. If a story leans in, where you were born, what you must do after this, the grievance, the hope, lay it down. You are not rude. You are devoted. The office is closed. Let the bare eye stand without embroidery. Not a person, not a resume, not a condition, just the unclothed fact of being. I. Now we move into the next 20 seconds, in desireless waiting. This is not empty wishing, and it is not a technique for outcomes. It is wholly non-interference. No asking, no outlining, no mental pictures. Do not reach up as if God were elsewhere. Do not reach into the body as if I were in there to be found. I am not in the physical, absent from the body, present with the Lord. Simply silently be receptive. Let the inward posture be a single sentence that says everything and asks nothing. Speak, Father, thy servant heareth, and then listen, not with ears, with the whole field of quiet awareness. If an impulse arises to manage, to repeat, to summon meaning, let it go. This is the consent that carries the seal. I wait in a state of receptivity. I do not use God. I let God use me. In the final 25 seconds, rest as I am. Let it stand, solitary, sovereign, sufficient. If a thought arises about time, about results, about someone's name, do not wrestle. Simply answer with a gentle negation. No, not that. If a sensation pulses in the knee, in the chest, do not descend into it to find yourself. No, not that. If a glow of peace comes, do not seize it and crown it king. No, not that. The seizing is still the person at work. Identity is not a mood. Let I am remain free of ornaments. Do not add I am peaceful, I am clear, I am healed. Leave it unqualified, I am. Allow the phrase, if it appears, to thin into silence as the sky thins the smoke of a passing fire. The word is not the presence, it is the pointing. Stand as the pointed to. I and the Father are one. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Without effort, without method, just the supremely simple being that neither begins nor ends in a body nor in a thought. I am. Now close the minute with a soft seal, not as magic words, not as a lever to move events, but as surrender. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Say it once, quietly, inwardly. Let it say you. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Feel how this retires the manager, relieves the scheduler, returns the scepter to the only king. Then do nothing. Not even gratitude as a performance. Gratitude will be there as atmosphere without rehearsing. Sit for a breath or two in the after quiet. And if the hands rise to fold or the eyes moisten, let them. No display, no suppression. Only the naturalness of a soul that has remembered its own source. Sometimes in this minute something announces itself. I call it the click. Do not hunt it, do not time it, do not bargain for it. It is not a thrill, not an emotion, not a trance. It is the quiet end of interference, a small inner ascent, by which the current that always was is felt to be moving without your push. It may be a loosening of the scalp, a softening behind the breastbone, a sense that the breath is breathing you. It may be so subtle you can only say afterward, something is not straining anymore. When it comes, do nothing with it. Do not look at it. Do not hold it. Do not tell it a story. Allow it to have you. It is God acting as the very stillness of your being, and God is the actor. When the click does not seem to come, likewise do nothing. No condemnation, no struggle. You cannot miss what you did not cause. The law is impersonal. You honored it by having no other gods during that minute. That is the obedience, that is the fruit. The mind may argue nothing happened. No, not that. The garden does not accuse the seed because it did not become a tree by afternoon. This minute clears the soil, removes rocks of will, weeds of fear, idols of outcome. Each time you consent to I am without adjective, you permit the divine life to root in consciousness. As you sow this receptivity, you reap the peace that requires no occasion. When the peace is not felt, the oneness is not less true. It is simply not being measured by a sensation. This keeps you safe from superstition and free from discouragement. Remember, you are not building a tower with minutes as bricks. You are recognizing the ground you already stand upon. One God, one life, one I. Whether the minute felt wide as a prairie or narrow as a straw, the fact remains, I am is. If distraction barged in and you said, no, not that, even once, you have refused to enthrone a second power. If only for a breath you were absent from the body and present with the Lord, the axis of identity has been remembered, and that remembrance will glow in acts you will never trace back to this seat. Softness in a word, patience where there would have been push, the refusal to be frightened by a rumor. Do not give yourself a report card. You have as much right to forgive yourself 70 times 7 in this practice as you have to forgive your neighbor. Begin again as often as grace nudges and without ceremony. And now, before we turn to the ways conscious union sometimes announces itself more fully, take one more quiet breath and notice that you did not travel to find this. You simply laid down the traveler. The person was dropped, not repaired. The mind was not conquered. The self that needed noise was not consulted. In that holy refusal, present stands revealed. I am. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And we let it be so. Sometimes in the after quiet of that minute, something as small as a bead of dew forms and tips without effort. I have called it the click. It is not a gong. It is not a rapture. It is not a trance. It is the exact instant the personal engine ceases to drive and the current that always was is acknowledged to be moving of itself. A shift from pushing to being born. A soft inner assent by which the mind without words says, "It is done," and then leaves the room. The hands unclasp. The breath is no longer supervised. The sense of a center inside the chest or the head relaxes its claim, and identity is less like a knot and more like a sky. I am not in the physical, absent from the body, present with the Lord. This is the click. Do not mistake it for pyrotechnics. Sometimes it wears a warmth like sunlight through a window. Sometimes it is a wideness with no temperature at all. Sometimes a tear comes without story, and sometimes nothing that can be named appears. Only the absence of inward pressure, as if a compressor has been switched off, as if the hum in the next room has stopped and you had not even known it was there to stop. Whether there is sensation or none, the mark is the end of interference. Not, I have acquired a feeling, but I am no longer arranging my being. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. Now, hear this warning for your safety. Do not turn to look at it. If you turn and stare, it recedes. If you name it and frame it and pin it like a moth under glass, it goes silent, not in anger, but because the person has resumed authorship. The click is shy before the gaze of possession. It thrives in non-interference. The temptation to repeat it on schedule, to reproduce it with a trick of breath, or to direct it toward an outcome, is the old altar rising in a new temple. No, no. There can be no selfish purpose in a cosmic law. The wind bloweth where it listeth. Do not bring a net. How then shall you verify without grasping? Do not examine the minute. Watch the hour that follows. The Spirit does not submit to lab tests. It brings fruit. After the minute, look quietly and see whether compassion has increased, whether the harsh sentence you were ready to pass upon yourself or another is commuted to patience. Notice whether you walk to the next task without hurry as God, without slump as failure, but simply as instrument. Notice whether clarity presents the next small step without argument, whether you are less tempted to interfere with your neighbor's path, whether the tongue is slower to defend itself and quicker to bless. These are the fingerprints of presence, not fireworks, fruit. By their fruits ye shall know them. You will find, too, that the law of love begins to circulate without any will of your own. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. In that oneness, a tone of kindness appears in the voice without rehearsal. The eyes soften at the sight of a burden without staging a rescue, and decisions that had been rows of options reduce themselves to a single, peaceful yes or no. This is the quiet flow, not dramatic, not rare, holy because natural. But if this is the way of it, what are the obstacles that make the minute feel like a locked door? Chief among them are self-judgment and spiritual ambition. Self-judgment says, I failed, I wandered, I did not feel what I was supposed to feel. Spiritual ambition says, I will have an experience, I will possess a permanent state, I will demonstrate power. These are the same idol in two robes, the person enthroned again, either as sinner or as magician. No, no, thou shalt have no other gods, not even the God of attainment. You cannot miss what you did not cause, and you cannot keep what is not yours to keep. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. When judgment comes, answer it with the same gentle negation you used for thoughts and sensations. No, not that. You have as much right to forgive yourself 70 times 7 in this practice as to forgive your neighbor in the street. The one who condemns is the one we are dropping. Do not hand it a gavel. When ambition comes clothed as prayer, let me feel the warmth again. Let me have the click again. Let the peace stay. Smile and say, no, not that. The click will not live in a cage. The flow is not yours. You are its transparency. Live thou thyself in me. Some of you have written me, I sat and there was nothing, and then, without noticing when, I found myself speaking more gently to a clerk, or waiting in traffic without a sermon, or allowing a child to be as they are. Friends, that is the announcement. Do not despise the small. The river does not prove itself by noise. It proves itself by irrigation. As you sow receptivity, you reap sufficiency, not as a sensation, but as a way of moving through the hour, unburdened by the person. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Sow non-interference, and you will reap guidance appearing as simple nexts that ask no strain and incite no fear. You may say, but I want to keep that openness. Do not keep it. Be kept by it. The shepherd keeps the sheep. The sheep do not keep the shepherd. The branch does not hold the vine. The vine holds the branch. I and the Father are one. Stay absent from the body and present with the Lord, not by clenching a state, but by refusing to enthrone the one who would clutch. Let the minute be as clean as the law we honor. Then the click, when and if it appears, will be free to move, free to be quiet, free to be nothing noticeable at all, while your day is watered by a presence that does not announce itself in symbols. And when the minute remains noisy, when the click seems nowhere and the thoughts parade with banners, remember the practice is not to win against thought, but to retire the struggler. That is where we are going next. We will take up the gentle correctives that remove condemnation and ambition from the seat, so that even a noisy minute becomes holy ground. For now, let the seal remain simple and sure. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. God is the actor. I am merely the instrument. And the quiet flow, seen or unseen, is already at work. When the minute fills with marching thoughts and nervous timings, do not take up arms. Do not become the policeman of the mind. Hear the first and chief correction. The voice that says, I can't be still, is the very person we are laying down. It is the claimant to authorship. It is the performer looking for a stage and a review. No, no, we are not engaging a performer. We are retiring the theater. The practice is not to win against thought. It is to cease identifying as the struggler. The one who wrestles is the one who must be let go. The I that silently is does not wrestle. I. Now, when the parade of thoughts proceeds, work lists, names, memories, worries, do not analyze them. Do not trace them to childhood. Do not inquire how they feel about you. Do not assign them grades. You are not a schoolmaster with a red pencil. The moment you begin to measure, you enthrone a second God, the God of outcomes. Thou shalt have no other gods. Let each thought pass as you would let a train pass. You do not lay your body on the track to make it love you. It moves, you are. A thought arises. No, not that. A feeling rises. No, not that. A clock ticks inside. No, not that. Return to the simplicity of I. If a word is needed, use the barest, I am. Do not decorate it. Do not massage it with adjectives, I am. Hear the word of mercy. You have as much right to forgive yourself as to forgive another. 70 times 7 and then more, for the law does not count. The inner accuser is still the person claiming jurisdiction. Lay down its badge. When you notice that you have wandered, do not strike yourself with a spiritual stick. The noticing is already awareness. It is not failure. The moment you know you were lost, you are found. That knowing is the doorway back. Do not stand critiquing the foyer. Walk through it. No penance, no pose. Simply, back to I. Sometimes the mind is like a pond stirred by a wind. Do not fight the wind. Make micro-adjustments. Shorten the practice to 20 seconds, if that is what grace gives. 5 seconds for I, 10 seconds of quiet, 5 seconds for thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Sometimes use a single phrase only, thy grace or I am, and let it thin into silence. Sometimes if closing the eyes turns into a theater of images, open them softly and rest the gaze on nothing in particular. The corner of a wall, a fold of cloth. There is no holiness in an eyelid. Work within kindness. If the seat is unkind, stand. If standing is unkind, walk slowly and inwardly. Whisper I with each step. The aim is not posture. The aim is non-interference. Return again, without drama. Do not announce to yourself that you are beginning again. That, too, is the person wanting applause for humility. Simply begin. Between emails, begin. At the sink, begin. Before you answer the phone, begin. 20 seconds are enough because God is not timed, and you are not manufacturing presence. You are consenting to what is. When attention slips, say gently, no, not that, back to I, not as a weapon, as a release. You may say, but it is still noisy. Yes. Then let the noise be present as weather without becoming a meteorologist. Clouds do not require your diagnosis. They pass more quickly when they are not tugged. And if they remain, you can be absent from the body and present with the Lord, even while thunder is heard in the distance. I am not in the physical. I am not in the mind's weather. I rest as the sky of awareness in which weather happens. This is not an achievement. This is a fact recognized. A further corrective. Do not seek to feel spiritual. Feeling spiritual is a costume the person wears on weekends. Leave it on the hanger. We are not auditioning for the role of saint. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. Instruments do not glow, they sound when played. If all you can say is I and keep your hands off the controls for 20 seconds, that is obedience to the first commandment, and it is enough for that moment. The law is impersonal. It does not need your mood. It needs your non-interference. One more care for your safety. When a hard memory arises or a sting of shame, do not use the practice to push it under a rug. Pushing is interference. Let it be present in the wideness without commentary. In that wideness, quietly say to yourself, as if to a dear neighbor, peace, be still. Not as a command to matter, but as a recognition that the one life is the only life here, and it bears no condemnation. Then rest again in I. If tears come, let them water the ground. Do not narrate them. Let the wind dry them. Begin again. Now we come to the gate that keeps this clean. The reset is not a private spa. It is not self-improvement on a cushion. The second commandment stands guard and turns self-absorption into service. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. When the minute feels noisy, turn outward without leaving I. As you leave the chair, let love be the first fruit. Make the gentlest next act a blessing. Answer the message without the old edge. Let the driver merge. Allow a child to be as they are. Forgive a debt of explanation you were going to demand. This prevents the practice from curving in on itself. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. In that oneness, the mind's noise loses its throne, because you are no longer its little king. You are transparency for the one, and the one is love. So when noise visits, we do not wrestle. We release the wrestler. We forgive before we evaluate. We shorten rather than strain. We say one simple word rather than compose a psalm. We open the eyes rather than close the heart. We return and return and return without keeping score. And each return is not the hero coming home. It is the dissolving of the hero into the home that never moved. I and the Father are one. I am. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And in that sufficiency, even a noisy minute becomes holy ground. Now let the law that holds the universe steady hold this practice steady. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, not as a pious embroidery, but as the physics of spirit. Why is it law? Because there is one self. The I that is aware here is not cut into pieces by distance or costume. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, love is not a favor bestowed upon another. It is the recognition of the same I, shining unadorned in every face, beneath every fear, beyond every role. When you love the neighbor as yourself, you are not patronizing a second creature. You are refusing a second self. From this follows a peace more practical than any argument. When I want nothing you have, and you want nothing I have, friction dissolves. Commerce becomes service. Roads become kind. Waiting lines become classrooms of patience where each one is equally supplied. War requires an I that needs, fears, and grabs. Oneness removes the grabber because it reveals sufficiency. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness. In my completeness, I find I do not need yours. And in not needing yours, I can bless you without calculation. This is not theory. This is traffic, breakfast, email, debt, contracts, healed at the root, because the claimant, the person with two hands outstretched, has been dropped. Now a warning to save you from injury. Never employ silence to gain advantage. Do not sit in quiet to bend another will, to secure a signature, to win a dispute, to call a buyer, to hush a critic. No, no, there can be no selfish purpose in a cosmic law. You do not manipulate infinity and escape unscathed. It is the same as a traffic law. When you use it as camouflage to speed through a red light, you have not been clever. You have collided with the principle. Or, as in mathematics, violate 2 times 2 is 4 to balance your ledger, and you have invoked not profit but the wrath of principle. The law of love is an impersonal presence. Attempt to turn it into a tool of acquisition, and it becomes a sword that cuts the hand that wields it. Do not project influence. I hope you will never try to do it. I have studiously avoided mental and physical contacts. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. Stay safe within that. What then is the function of our minute? In receptivity, what flows is blessing, not willpower. The moment the person retires, the getting dries up, and a spring of giving appears without strain. You will hear it in your tone, see it in your eyes, feel it in your hands that no longer reach out to take but open to serve. This is the law of love stabilizing your practice. It prevents the minute from curving upon itself. It keeps the I from becoming a private fortress by dissolving its walls. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. The all is not a mystical fog. It includes the clerk at the counter, the partner in the office, the difficult aunt, the one who votes as you do not. When oneness is known, love is the only action left, and it requires no rehearsal. Translate this now into the small theaters where life actually happens. At a red light, do not curse the signal as a thief of time, Receive it as a sacrament. You have 60 seconds. Close the theater of self for that minute. No, not that. And stand as I. Let thy grace is my sufficiency in all things seal the stillness. Then look and see, not with analysis, but with recognition, the faces around you as your own self wearing other contours. When the light changes, let the car merge. If a horn barks, bless without speech. Peace is practical. It saves fenders and arteries. Before a difficult conversation, do not load your silence with ammunition. Do not sit in order to compose a sharper phrase or fortify a case. No, no. Return to I without motive. Lay down the gavel, absent from the body, present with the Lord, present too with the Lord as that neighbor. Refuse to project a script upon them. Refuse to imagine their response. In the last seconds before words begin, say inwardly once, simply, God is the actor, I am merely the instrument. Then speak only as the words are given, or be quiet if none are given. You will find that love, not strategy, arranges the exchange. The heat will lessen. The need to win will relax. And often the next right step will present itself without debate. In pain, the temptation is to descend into the body to hunt for an I lodged in a throbbing place. No, not that. I am not in the physical. Be absent from the body without leaving the room. Refuse to name yourself as a hurting person. Refuse also to fight sensation with spiritual sticks. Sit in the 1-minute reset. Let the thought, peace, be still, arise not as a command to flesh, but as a recognition of the one life present and intact. Let that recognition widen to the whole field, floor, window, neighbor, city, until the pain is no longer the central planet around which your world orbits. Whether the sensation softens or not during that minute, you will be kept by a presence that does not register in nerves. And you will be less tempted to inflict your unrest upon another, for love stabilizes what quiet begins. Some of you will ask, but is this not passivity? No, no. This is the only true action because it begins in non-interference and flowers as uncalculating good. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Sow oneness, and you reap cooperation. Sow desirelessness, and you reap provision unhooked from anxiety. Sow blessing, and you reap conditions that require less defense and deliver more mutual care. The law of love is the stabilizer because it makes your realization unsafe to the ego, but utterly safe to the soul. It turns a private experience into a public good without your planning. Remember, do not try to love. Let love testify to itself the instant the person is absent. The branch does not strain to make sap. It abides, and life flows. In your oneness with God, you abide. Life flows as courtesy in traffic, truth in conversation, gentleness in pain. And if you should find yourself seeking to use the minute for conquest, stop and repent, not as self-accusation, but as a turning. Return to the first commandment, thou shalt have no other gods. And then let the second commandment take you outward again as quiet beneficence. We will carry this into the hours ahead as simple practice. I and the Father are one, therefore I and my neighbor are not two. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Therefore I do not need your purse, your praise, your proof. God is the actor, therefore I will not arrange your path nor resist your freedom. In this the reset does not end at the chair, it ripens in the street. And peace ceases to be a goal. It becomes the way we move because the self that moves is one. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And the day, so lived, will require fewer apologies and bear more fruit than any plan you could have drafted in the old mind. Minute-by-minute living is nothing but many quiet yeses to the first commandment, spread like seeds through the day. We are not adding a new shrine with a timer on it. No, No, we are removing the throne from the person, often and gently, so that governance returns to God. The reset is not a trick to get more of anything. It is the end of getting. It is the return to I am, where God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. With that, time itself begins to serve rather than rule, because the unit of living is not the hour. It is the minute, this minute offered back to Source. When you first wake, before you pick up the name and the day's costume, do not reach for the world. Let the pillow become an altar for 60 seconds. 1. Just that. Not planning the day, not bargaining for a mood. Simply absent from the body, present with the Lord. Let the breath find itself. Refuse the person's itinerary. Then rise and let one act of love be the first footfall of the hour. It may be the simple courtesy of making the bed without a sigh, or greeting the one in the kitchen without rehearsed grievance, or placing a glass of water where a tired hand will find it. The minute has borne its fruit. Move on. Before meals, do not turn gratitude into magic to make matters safe. No, not that. This is not a charm. Sit for 60 seconds and let I am empty the chair of the eater who would possess and improve. God is the life, God is the law, God is the food and the digestion. I am the transparency through which that law operates. Then eat in peace. Let the one act of love be a silent blessing for the hands that grew and prepared, or a willingness to put the device aside and offer undistracted presence to the one across the table. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness. Therefore, I do not need entertainment to fill a lack. I and the Father are one, and the meal testifies. Before sending a message, the sharp email, the persuasive note, the carefully engineered response, stop as if a red light had appeared in the lane of your mind. The red light does not oppress you, it prevents collision. Obedience here is safety. 60 seconds. I, no defense, no strategy. Thou shalt have no other gods, not even the God of being right. Then send only what remains in love. Let the one act be as small as deleting the sentence that would have avenged an old injury, softening the salutation, or waiting 10 minutes if love has not yet returned to the hand. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Let the words go out as instruments of that oneness, or do not send them yet. Entering a meeting, do not sit down with the person's agenda humming. Stand for a silent minute in the hallway or in your own chair before the room fills. I am, not to get the contract, not to win the point. God-governed being does not enter to take. It enters to be transparent. Then one act of love. Ask the question that lets the quietest voice in the room be heard, or yield the floor when the old engine would have insisted. You will find that decisions arrive with less debate, and the meeting ends with fewer wounded egos. This is not passivity. It is the only true action because it removes interference. In the middle of fear, when the heart knocks on the ribs as if to escape, do not indict yourself for being afraid. Do not call it your fear. No, not that. Refuse the name afraid person. Sit or stand where you are and be absent from the body without leaving the room. 60 seconds. If a phrase appears, let it be peace. Be still, not as command to the nerves, but as recognition of the one life that never trembles. Then the one act of love may be to make the needed phone call without theater, or to apologize for the sharp word that fear had loaded on your tongue, or simply to choose the next small step that serves without drama. Whether the sensation lingers or not, your governance has returned to God, and the day is safer for everyone who meets you. Before sleep, do not drag the person into the night to argue the day. No, no. Let the bed be a gate. 60 seconds. Let the mind lay down its badges. You have as much right to forgive yourself. 70 times 7 as to forgive the neighbor who cut you off in traffic. Let the one act of love be a final blessing without projection. Hold the world in the awareness of oneness and then release it. I am not in the physical. I rest in the I that neither sleeps nor wakes. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Then sleep without managing the dawn. You will ask, is not one long session better than these small ones? I say, the river that waters a valley is fed by 1,000 springs. The earth is not drenched in a single gesture. It is kept by constancy. Many small returns are more transformative than occasional sieges of will. A musician does not tune once a year. They touch the string lightly before each song. So let it be with you. Between doors and calls, at red lights, before you answer the bell, after you read a headline, 20, 40, 60 seconds. No strain, no stopwatch, no ledger. Each minute a simple yes to I am, and then one small act of love, and on you go. Guard yourself against turning the minute into a new idol. Do not boast of it, do not count it, do not advertise it to your own mind as merit. Do not sit in order to force a sale, turn a vote, heal a body, or direct a weather. No, no. There can be no selfish purpose in a cosmic law. If you use silence to compel an outcome, you have not kept law. You have rammed the red light and created a crash. You will have to clear. Stay safe. Sit only to surrender. Rise only to love. God is the actor. I am merely the instrument. The instrument does not claim the music nor aim it. It offers its emptiness to be used. Let the rhythm be as plain as the alphabet. 60 seconds of I am, then one act of love. Call the one who waits to hear your voice and ask for nothing in return. Forgive a small debt of explanation you were going to demand. Allow the driver to merge without a lecture. Put the phone face down while a child tells you 3 unimportant things that are more important than your news. Hold the door, say thank you as if you meant it. These are not decorations. They are proofs that the minute was real. By their fruits ye shall know them. And so, through the day and into the quiet of night, we live not by effort but by return. We return and return until returning is our way of being. I am. I and the Father are one. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, and I thank thee. Now let us come to stillness, not to make anything happen, not to improve a person, but to let the Father within do the work. God is the actor, I am merely the instrument. God is the doer and the beer. I am the transparency for his action. I withdraw every claim to authorship. I drop the costume and the script. I lay down the little hands that reached, and I open as empty space for the one to move as he will. Not by might, not by power, not by mental effort. Be still and know, be still and know. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Let it be spoken slowly, and let the words fall into the silence between them. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, not my plan, not my performance, not my cleverness. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. In fear, thy grace. In lack, thy grace. In grief, thy grace. In success that would tempt me into pride, thy grace. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. I seal identity now where it has always been. I am, not this body, not this fear, not this past, not this reputation, not this hunger to be praised or understood. I am, absent from the body, present with the Lord. I am not in the physical. No surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body. The I that is aware is non-local, without boundary, unconfined, uninjured, unborn, undying. I and the Father are one. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. In that oneness, the person relaxes and dissolves, not destroyed, simply unnecessary. The wind ceases to push a boat that no longer rows. Into this quiet, I do not ask for outcomes. I do not arrange, bargain, or promise. Thou shalt have no other gods. I do not enthrone health, money, safety, or influence as second gods to be courted. I rest in sufficiency itself. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. I feel for the click, not an emotion, not a thrill, but the end of interference, the release of the hand from the tiller. When it comes, or if it comes like a feather and not a bell, I accept it. And if no sense comes at all, I accept that too, and remain in trust, because God is the actor, I am merely the instrument. Take this as your password when mind noise rises. Return to this minute, knock at the door of your own consciousness, and it shall be opened unto you, not by argument, but by willingness. If the thoughts crowd, do not fight. No, not that. Step aside and stand as I. Whisper once, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, and let the whisper widen into silence. Refuse to name yourself as the struggler. Refuse to hire a second God as a consultant. Rest for 60 seconds, then rise into love. One small act, any act, given without calculation. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, what flows next belongs to all, and not to me. Father, live thy life as this life. Speak thy word where my words once hurried. See with thine eye where I once judged. Move these feet where thy need is, not where my fear or pride would send them. Let me be absent from the body and thought and present with the Lord, even as the hands wash a dish. Compose a sentence, drive through a light made green. Hold me within the law that guards and frees, one God only. Love to every neighbor as my very self. If I forget, bring me back by the gentlest recall. If I hurry, slow me. If I grasp, open me. If I argue, still me. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness. In my oneness with God, I find my security. In my oneness with God, I find my peace. In my oneness with God, I find my joy. In my oneness with God, I find my fulfillment. I do not need your purse, your praise, your proof. I do not need a sign to bless. I do not need the future to kneel before me. I need only to stand transparent, desireless, and receptive, and let the river flow as it chooses. The branch does not make sap. It abides, and life appears as blossom, fruit, shade. So I abide. I am. And now, gratitude. Not gratitude for things acquired, but for the fact of being, for the unearned sufficiency that is God's own presence. Thank you for being what I am, nearer than breath, wider than sky, unthreatened by time. Thank you for the law that keeps me safe when I obey, and for the mercy that leads me home when I wander. Thank you for the neighbors who are my very self in other contours, inviting me to love without fear. Thank you that I am not in the physical, that I cannot fall out of the one. Thank you that the person can relax, that striving can end, that I am stands revealed. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. God is the actor. I am merely the instrument. I and the Father are one. I am, and so it is, and I thank thee.